Okay. Good morning, Trish. Good morning. All right. So I've got some maintenance stuff to do today, and then hopefully I can get around to fixing the issue with having an intro video. Y'all, it's cold this morning. It's brisk out there. Y'all see it got down below freezing, so I had to put on a hoodie. Which I'm not a big fan of. Uh-oh. Liberty Girl says I'm not showing on YT. And I says, yes, I am. I see people watching from YouTube. So we're there. Good. But you know what, Liberty Girl, it's not worth checking. You're watching on Rumble, and that's the best place to be anyway. And frankly, where you guys are watching from is a lot of what I want to talk about this morning. We're going to talk about the government cheese media. Government cheese media has been, frankly, a problem. So like I said yesterday a little bit, there's a lot of work to do on the autopsy of the 2024 election. And this morning I want to talk in particular about the podcast presidency, the media malfeasance, and a lot of what we saw with the Democrat propaganda machine that is what most people call the mainstream media, and I will henceforth refer to as the government cheese media. I don't know if any of y'all, I've never actually eaten government cheese as a civilian. It came across my plate once or twice in the Army, but it used to be a big deal about people getting their government cheese on their welfare program or what have you. And it's a basic subsistence, low quality product that's generated by Uncle Sam, like everything's generated by government. And as we've seen with media generally, everything from the mainstream news outlets to modern Hollywood productions, it's just the highest production cost, low quality product you could hope to imagine. Patrick points out I'll have to keep the full name for government cheese media because the GCM acronym is already taken by one of your viewers. That's right. We have I wish Ben was watching this morning, because I am going to start saying GCM in reference to government cheese media. But Georgia Constitution Media is a great First Amendment auditor channel. He puts on a pretty good show. So let's do this. I want to start by, let me show you this. These 6 companies basically run 90% of all media, right? Or own some 90% of all media. And that is a big deal. That kind of consolidation, centralization. I mean, go look back at history and find for me one instance of central planning that is not just an absolute disaster. Central planning is how you get collective farms. It's how you get the killing fields. It's how you get the Holodomor. It's how you get the Holocaust. That's what centralization does. And quite frankly, in most of those cases, what's happening is most of you are familiar with the expression power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's not really what happens. What happens is positions of authority, especially those positions of enforced authority, which involve the use of violence and a monopoly on violence to enforce that authority. Those positions are very low effort, low qualification requirement professions, right? All you have to do to be a politician is to talk good and get elected and spend money, right? If you're basically, if you are a very competent salesman, then that's all you need to be a politician. Now, don't get me wrong. Sales is a very high skilled profession, but there's a certain quality that lends itself to a more successful salesman. A politician tends to be the one who, rather than getting smart on a product or a service and selling it and making a pile of money doing it. And guys, I've done sales. I've done sales, and I did sales in the insurance business, and I did commercial lines, and there's money to be made. I did quite well with my insurance sales jobs. I was an independent broker. I had contracts with just about every major, Blue Cross, Geico, Progressive, you name it. I sold a shit out of some insurance. Hey, Cameron, good morning, sunshine. But anyway, what I was getting at, it doesn't take a large degree of competence, as we can see from people like AOC getting into office, to be a politician. So the real truth about the idea that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, it is more correct to say that the positions where that power exists tend to attract the most corruptible. There's a great short story by Robert A. Heinlein called "The Man Who Was Too Lazy to Fail," and it tells the story of a young man who joins the Navy, because he's lazy, and his initial reasoning. And I'm a veteran. I'm married to a veteran. My dad is a veteran, right? We can tell you serving is not easy. It is not the right place for a lazy guy. That said, I have had some lazy ass soldiers. As a non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army, I have encountered some lazy, useless soldiers. And as a competent non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army, I was able to take even some shitty soldiers who, a reasonable NCO would have been perfectly justified in putting them out. But I was able to put in just a little bit of extra hurt and blood and sweat and pain and turn them into competent, successful soldiers. I had one. He wasn't even really lazy. He had a different issue. He went pretty bad wrong. Disappeared one time. Lost accountability, and found him in a hotel room with a belly full of pills and liquor, trying to off himself. And like I said, I'm not gonna use any names. Some of my old battles who were in that unit with me will remember who I'm talking about, just from the story, just from what I just said. And for those of you who are able to pick out that name, I'm happy to report that our young private from back then is now a law enforcement officer somewhere in Middle America. Again, no identifying details, but he came through that. It was hard work. We had to beat on him a bit to get his head right, and now he's happy and married with some kids and a good job, and doing good. This is all that shit happened 15 years ago, so it's been I'm sure he had a long and painful road, even after going through all that. But putting the work in is important. But as a politician, like I said, the fuck does AOC know about doing work? Because I can tell you from when I was a kid, I worked in some restaurants too, and I can tell you something about AOC. When you've got a perky set of titties, it ain't hard to make tips tending bar. So, what has happened in the aftermath of this election, as you're looking at the media landscape? Like I said, government cheese. the big companies, we're hearing about big personalities like Rachel Maddow with a $30-some million contract, just took a terrible pay cut, right? She's losing $5 million a year as MSNBC is trying to claw back some of their losses. But there's a real opportunity here for guys like me, and frankly, for all of you who are watching today. Y'all, start a YouTube channel. With this channel, I'm working on building it on Rumble, on Locals, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook, on X. Sorry, I didn't mean to dead name you, Elon. I'm working on building it on all platforms because I'm more interested in the politics and the conversation there. But there is something happening on YouTube right now, and it is this. The big advertisers, they saw what just happened. The government cheese media, they are in free fall. They are losing viewers by the cargo. I mean, just job lots of viewers just gone. They're cratering into, they used to enjoy millions and millions of viewers, and now they're dropping down into the hundreds of thousands. And most of them, your MSNBCs, your CNNs, et cetera, they're in the majority of their views are in the 65 and up demographic, where you're not selling anything. Sorry, Dad, you are not the target market for advertisers that spend big money on commercials. You are the target market for essentially nothing. Once you're old, retired, and happy, you don't need to buy much. That's why if you turn on CNN or MSNBC, all they're selling is like cholesterol medication and adult diapers and all that kind of crap. Not that I'm suggesting you need adult diapers, old man. I remember that VA crook that tried to get you to say you that you needed adult diapers. Y'all. Dad dealt with a VA guy one time that was, in fairness, the guy was probably trying to help Dad out and get him some free government money, but he tried to convince him that he should claim that he suffers from anal leakage because he's old enough that they believe him, and Dad refused to do it. And I respect the hell out of his integrity. Joe Buddy says, shout out to my 5-pound block of cheese people. That's right, that 5-pound block of cheese. and the pun works in so many ways, Joe Buddy, because we call it the government cheese media. Let me tell you something about eating that government cheese. Like, you get an MRE and it's got the little packet of cheese spread in it. It's the same product. If you eat a steady diet of that, you will remain uncomfortably full of shit. That's just how that works. You'll want to chew the gum out of the MRE then. It just might save your life. But as these ratings are in free fall, YouTube especially is where it's at. You've got Spotify, you've got Apple Podcasts, and all these other platforms where people do consume podcasts and media, but the real momentum is with YouTube. I'm sorry to say. Now, I'm sorry to say, because YouTube has been grossly censorious for quite some time, and that's not great. However, part of that censoriousness is YouTube wanted to be something, and it is what YouTube was in the beginning. YouTube wanted to be basically your funny cat videos, et cetera, et cetera. But what YouTube has become, and Jordan Peterson has been talking about this for years, he calls it a Gutenberg revolution, and it is, in a big way. Now, so Rumble's out there now as a competitor, and Rumble is a minor competitor. Well, let's be real. Rumble is not really knocking down YouTube's door yet. But I suspect that in the podcast presidency, that might change pretty quickly unless something else changes. If you're on YouTube, if you're watching YouTube, say on your phone, you can't close the app and keep listening unless you're paying for the YouTube premium service. If you're paying the subscription for the extra YouTube premium service, then you can close the YouTube app and just let the audio play. So you can pull up, your Ben Shapiro, your Steven Crowder, whoever it is you want to listen, or me, and just listen. You can't do that on YouTube unless you're paying for it. On Rumble, if you've just got the free Rumble app on your phone, you can pull it up, close it, turn off the phone screen, stick it in your pocket, set it on the countertop, whatever, put your headphones on, put your earbuds in, turn on your hearing aids, Sergeant Major. I ain't gonna lie, 10 grand worth of hearing aids, almost worth it just for the excellent Bluetooth quality I get out of them. But you can close Rumble and keep listening. I think. Look, let me caveat that. I've had a Rumble premium membership for about 2 years, specifically for the live stream infrastructure that we use to produce the show. And so it was the case that you could do it with the Rumble free app. I believe that's still the case. So that's worth knowing. And for me, if I have my druthers, I would love to see more of you watching on Rumble than YouTube. Just because the more people I get watching on Rumble, if I cross certain viewership thresholds, I can start doing ad reads and make a little money, and all of a sudden this show can start helping me pay for building the studio. Aaron says, I think YouTube is stealing from people. They took that feature away back in 2010. I'll give you a little bit of pushback there, Aaron. I'll say it's certainly fair to make it it seems kind of wormy and obnoxious, but it's perfectly reasonable to put a feature behind a paywall. No matter what you think of certain business practices, at the end of the day, nobody does anything for free. By the way, there's a link in the description where you can buy me a coffee. Just saying. At least in theory, nobody does anything for free. And the YouTube business model does have to have something to sell in order to make a buck. And I know they're owned by Google, they're owned by Alphabet. There's billions and billions and billions. They make their money on other things. YouTube has been a loss leader for Google for over a decade. That is all true. But eventually they can't continue to be a loss leader. And I think that may be about to turn a corner. Because like one of the things we saw with things like the adpocalypse back in the day is the advertiser said, well, I'm not going to advertise with YouTube because I don't want my advertisement to play in front of a video for somebody I don't agree with politically. Yeah, you're not going to be able to play that game anymore. Because now what you have is all your Steven Crowders and Matt Walshes that say things that are controversial because why? Oh, because they're true. Things like you shouldn't murder babies, you shouldn't mutilate children, men are men, women are women, neither the tween shall meet, save for the production of children, whom you should not murder. I think I covered all. I think that covers the important bases. Oh, and also, that's a good one. But the ads are served not at random. The ads are served based on interests, tested through YouTube. So, like me, if I'm watching YouTube, if I'm watching YouTube on my computer out in my office, or I'm signed in as me, the ads are all stuff like survival gear, outdoorsy stuff, electronic equipment, cameras, stuff like that. If I go inside and sit down and watch funny cat videos on the television, signed in as my wife, or even just the guest account that's not signed into YouTube, well, I've got a shitload of daughters. Every other ad is for pads or tampons or something like that. And I mean every other ad. Thankfully, I don't have to endure any more Kamala Harris ads, because oh my God, was she trying to get my daughters to vote for her. My daughters, who are all 14 and under, Kamala was trying hard to get them to hate me. Anyway, so as we're moving forward, this offers up a huge opportunity, because people just saw the lie. Joe Biden lied about pardoning Hunter, right? Kamala Harris lied about tariffs, lied about verifying people, lied about this, and this. And I forget who said it recently, but basically the idea is once you see one lie, it gets hard not to see the rest of it. Right? We've talked a little bit about Gelman amnesia, and that is a thing. But there's a piece that's outside of that. So Gelman amnesia, imagine you're a professional, a skilled professional, right? So you're a doctor and you watch House, right? And you say that's not how amyloidosis works. And then one of your buddies who's not a doctor is like, look, man, whatever. The show's fun. The show's entertaining. We like the show. Okay, fine. But that's not how this shit works. And then in the same show, one of them starts explaining something about global warming politics. And you're just like, oh, huh, yeah, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. You just listened to them lie about some shit you know about. That's Gelman amnesia, right? That's when you hear Mika Brzezinski say Fox News is evil because they're trying to tell you what to think, and Donald Trump is evil because he's trying to tell you what to think, and, well, that's our job. Whoa, Mika, right? That's a thing that happened. But so you're an epidemiologist, and you listen to CNN say that a thin piece of fabric is going to stop a virus from getting in your face hole, and you're like, what? That's retarded. Viruses are tiny, like really, really tiny. And then you listen to them tell you that the world is going to catch on fire if you don't use child slave labor to harvest lithium from mines in Africa. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. No, it doesn't. They lied about one thing and then they lied about another. Well, so what has just happened is people have seen the lie outside of their particular field of expertise. That's a very different thing. That's a very different thing. That breaks away a piece of the bias, and you see the lie for what it is. And once you see one like that and break loose from the Gelman amnesia, it gets very difficult not to become extremely critical of every other thing they say. The big one that just swept this country is the entire government cheese media establishment told you all that Joe was okay. In fact, that Joe was excellent and in great health. In fact, he was healthier than Donald Trump. And then he went out on that debate stage where he got beat so bad that for the first time in history, the result of a presidential debate was the elimination of one of the participants from the campaign. Now that the mainstream media is in free fall and YouTube has learned that they are not going to be the cat video platform anymore, YouTube and the advertisers that advertise on YouTube are investing in a big way in podcasts. They have been repressing podcasts, right? So, yes, there has been political censorship from YouTube, but there has also been a move by YouTube to suppress viewership on podcasts generally. They're trying to prevent long-form non-entertainment or other than entertainment from getting on there. So you want to make a film, you want to make a 30 or 60-minute short film and put it on YouTube, they're all for it, right? But you want to talk politics, you want to talk economics, you want to talk stuff that matters. They don't want that. That's changing now because Donald Trump just became the podcast president. They're calling it the podcast presidency because part of what he did to win was going on these podcasts and having real conversations, sitting down with Joe Rogan for 3 hours and just having a conversation with another grown-ass man. And one of the great things about that podcast, Trump and Rogan, they talked some politics. They talked a little inside baseball. Donald Trump talked a little bit about, when he got elected, it was kind of shocking, just the sudden change in how the world worked for him, going into a new profession for the first time, et cetera, et cetera. But they talked about sports. They talked about Fight Night. They talked about WWF, WWE, Ultimate Fighting, UFC, and all that was very just, two guys just chit-chatting over a beer type of stuff. And it was huge. The world watched the shit out of it. In a video that was removed from the trending tabs artificially by YouTube. It removed the video from trending tabs, right? Suppressed recommendation. And it still got tens of millions of views overnight. Oh, okay. So Aaron, no, that's not what I'm saying. So Aaron says, based on what you're saying, YouTube is heading the same route as the mainstream media because they're going to suppress the long version of content. No. So here's what's happening. They have been suppressing the long form version of content. Let me clarify this, and then I'll get to the last point that I want to make about the opportunity that's in front of you. So they have been suppressing the long form version of content because what YouTube wanted to be was just people sharing cat videos and funny stuff. And y'all, there's definitely a place for that. There's absolutely a place for that, right? I love sitting on the couch, just hanging out with my kids and watching funny cat videos or funny doggy videos. I prefer dog videos; they're funnier. But that was what they wanted. YouTube was originally intended to be a platform where knuckleheads could just share videos and have a little fun. In the beginning, there wasn't even really a monetization model for the average Joe, and then people started creating their own monetization models. Right? You go on, you do a show. If you do it consistently, people start looking for it. Then you start selling a product. You go, hey, this show brought to you by Altoids. Right? This show is not brought to you by Altoids. I just happen to have a can on my desk, but people started selling products through their shows. So you talk about something people are interested in, and let's see. I run a business, and in my business, I use a laser engraving machine. Let me tell you about this laser engraving machine. Here's a link where you can go buy one on Amazon, and then I make a commission, right? So it started off that way. People created this solo monetization, and then YouTube responded by starting to sell advertising to kind of help people monetize even easier. What's happening now is because of the collapse of mainstream media and the massive shift of the viewer base to online platforms, especially YouTube. YouTube is now they're lifting that restriction. They're backing off that suppression on viewership and recommendation on YouTube. They're actively working now to basically support the creation of that long form content. You're going to see things change in the algorithm. You're going to see people making videos about how the algorithm is changing. I'm not saying that that change has happened now, but it is in progress. So going into 2025, for any of you that have the time and the inclination to just sit and look into a camera and talk to an audience for 30 minutes or more, which I do every single morning. Oh, I'm sorry. I do every weekday morning at 7:30 for at least a half an hour, right? I'll tell you this. It is not the easiest thing in the world to just sit down and talk to the camera and say something interesting. But there is a massive opportunity right now for people to grow a channel, especially on YouTube and on X to a lesser extent. Well, not even to a lesser extent. The monetization requirements and criteria from X to YouTube they're different from one another. They're a little different. So going forward, I'm working on growing this show. Made big gains yesterday. Several hundred new followers over on X. Handful of new subscribers on YouTube. And I'm growing. I'm basically growing everywhere but locals. I'd like to get more people watching. And Facebook, but I really don't care about Facebook. There's no monetization potential on Facebook. Facebook is good for selling products to targeted audiences with product specific advertisements. It's not so great for trying to make money just doing a show like this. But I mean, somebody's watching on Facebook. I see there's at least a couple of viewers over there on Facebook. Let's see who you are. I don't see. So hey, if you're watching on Facebook, leave us a comment real quick because I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing any comment from you guys. So yeah. But anyway, going forward, I think there's a huge opportunity for you guys to make some money if you want to get on YouTube. I think it's going to be about the longer form content for a while. And part of that is because of the podcast presidency. But because they'll be pulling restrictions off of longer form content, there will be a place for non-political longer form content as well. So you've got a hobby, if painting miniatures, for example. Maybe you do like some Warhammer 40K and you paint miniatures. Set up a couple of cameras and paint and just do what you do. And if you can do that while talking to the audience and talking about what you're doing, right? So, painting the miniatures, for example, you can say, okay, I'm painting this one red and yellow because those are the colors for my company logo. And I like this machine gun, but I'm going to make it like black and purple and give it some tiger stripes, make it sinister, and kind of explain what you're doing as you're doing it. There's a place for that now. There's a place for it already, but I think there's going to be a much bigger place for it going forward. So, take heart. The victory of Donald Trump over the government cheese media is hopefully going to help us just completely tear down all the woke nonsense, all the DEI garbage that we're already seeing fleeing there. I mean, they're in total free fall, and open up an opportunity for people to build media companies. David Northrup, you say that, Gandhi. You say LMAO, making handcrafted leather items, LMAO. Don't LMAO. Do it. Do it. I don't know how often you do the handcrafted leather items, but you can give me a call later and I can tell you about what you can do on the cheap to get started. And You don't have to buy a flipping. You don't have to go and spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on a bunch of complex equipment like the mixing board and the controller stuff and all that I run, because I mean, I do media production, right? I actually, most of the stuff that I use for the show, with the exception of this particular camera, was purchased in the course of doing the rest of my media production work, and is incidental to it. You don't have to spend the money on all that crap. You can get started on the dirt cheap. You can do it with your phone. If I was going to start fresh, I tell you what, there is one thing. There's one thing, and I'm gonna drop a link real quick to an Amazon item. Let me see. I've gotten a couple of these. There's several different versions of this. This one is, so I'm not saying that this is the one to get. It's going to depend on what phone you have. And it's going to depend on what kind of phone you have. But if you've already got a smartphone, most of you do. You've already got a smartphone and you wanted to get on YouTube, Rumble, all of them. This item right here, this is what I would recommend to purchase. Let me see. I'll share the screen with you. So what this is a little microphone set. And you've got this little dongle. Do I have one on the desk? I think I have one on this desk right now. Yeah, well, okay. This is the cheap one, right? You can pick up one of these for about 40 or 50 bucks. So you got the little dongle there that plugs into your phone, and then you have the two little microphones. This is plenty good enough for a YouTube, an easy YouTube production setup. These that I have, the ones that I have on the desk, I've got a few of the cheaper ones too, but like this one, this is a DJI mic and set up. These, set like this is $200-300 bucks. The big difference. The quality is comparable. The sound quality you get from the cheaper ones is perfectly serviceable. It'll be plenty good enough to do a YouTube video out of. The DJI mics that I use, those I use for professional production purposes, because the cheap ones, it's just a microphone. It's a wireless microphone. It's a pretty good wireless microphone. When I first got a set of those cheapies, I set them up. I plugged it into the phone. I put the phone on a tripod, and then I walked away and walked around the truck and walked around the house, and the range was excellent. It did not succumb to substantial interference until I was about 65 feet away and with a metal object like the truck in between myself and the phone. Held up great. The benefit to the DJI mics is they have a backup recorder in the mic. So if you do lose, right, and this is getting a little into the weeds on the production side. If you do lose your connection and you have bad audio in the main file, then you can use the backup to replace that bad audio and get a clean recording, even if there was a technical issue. Which, I treat film production in a way like mission planning for the military. Basically, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I have 2 gimbals. I take them both to a production. I'm only going to use one. But if the one breaks, that's yeah. Cameron says, God, I love the DJI mics. Maybe my single greatest gear contribution to the kit ever. Yeah, absolutely. Like, just having the DJI mic in the truck when I'm driving, cop pulls me over and just grab one and throw it, just hang it somewhere. It's recording, right? That shit's handy. Anytime I'm having a professional conversation, I've got something like that. Anytime I'm talking to somebody on the phone about, bills, taxes, legal stuff, anything, talking to a company, I've got some kind of a recording device on and I'm recording that conversation and saving it as a PDF and saving the digital file just in case, because people lie. I'm way off track now. So, like I was saying, Gandhi, especially because you cracked a joke about it, feel free to give me a call and I can walk you through getting set up and some things you can do. If you've already got a hobby, you're already doing something. The easiest thing to do is to use your phone and just go live. Right? Then there's no editing. I did drop a link for the mic. Aaron, I'll drop it again right here. Did it? Oh, it didn't go to YouTube. That's weird. Let me see if I can get it there. It's not showing up on YouTube. Thanks for asking. I'm gonna pop over there and see if I can get it to you. Oh no, there it is. Yeah, there it is. There it is again. So it's in the chat on YouTube, and I'll go ahead and pin it as a comment on YouTube after. I'll try to remember to do it right after the show. But yeah, you should be able to click on that there. And full disclosure, that is a. Patrick says, yes, it is. I see the same 4 links. Okay, good to go. And full disclosure, that is an Amazon partner program link. So if you need that object and you go and buy it, I will get a commission. In fact, if you click on that link, if you're going to buy something on Amazon today and you start by clicking that link and you don't buy the thing, but then you continue shopping on Amazon and buy something useful, I will also get a commission from that. Anything you buy after you click that link and stay in the same session, right? So if you click that link and you go and buy a can of chock full of nuts coffee after you open that link and just go up to the search bar, I will get a commission off your chock full of nuts coffee. If you click that link, buy nothing, close Amazon, come back in a week and buy something through Amazon, I will not get a commission. So go buy coffee and the microphones. And we love you. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow. Oh, wait, okay. I'm about to hit that outro. Real quick. Okay, so Cameron's working today. Mario had a thing. There are a couple of things in the news that I want to cover. I did this show today specifically because I want Mario for a particular topic. We're going to talk about the Daniel Penny trial, and we're going to talk about martial law in South Korea. I didn't feel the need to dive into the martial law in South Korea thing because even though it's a thing that happened that's interesting and probably warrants some discussion, it's a thing that happened and was almost instantaneously resolved. There will be some fallout from that, and I want to see more about what happens with the political fallout from the martial law situation before I get more into it. So you'll look for that tomorrow morning. Hopefully we'll have Mario for that one, and yeah, we'll get you back on here, and we'll get Cameron back on here Friday for Firearms Friday. And again, we love you, and we will see you tomorrow.